It's my privilege to share with you the remembrance of message of Mahatma Gandhi ji. Mahatma Gandhi was not wealthy, he had no powers vested in him, yet this extraordinary man led the people of India to freedom from slavery of colonial rule by persistently non-violent methods to become the world's largest democracy. Truth was his guiding star, and non-violence his strength. The civil rights movements led by Martin Luther King Jr. was the embodiment of Gandhiji's non-violent methods. Gandhi is no longer an individual, but a symbol of all that is most enduring in the human tradition. A symbol of the alternative in all areas of life: agriculture, industry, technology, education, health, economy, political organization, and so on. His message is a source of inspiration and reference for all those fighting social injustices, wars, nuclear threats, environmental degradation, for all those who are fighting for a better world for our children. We must be the change we wish to see, he said. An eye for an eye, and soon the world is blind. 60 years ago this day, he wrote in his newspaper, Harijan, "Has the atom bomb exploded my faith in nonviolence? Not only has it not done so, but also it has clearly demonstrated to me that truth and nonviolence constitute the mightiest force in the world." According to Gandhiji, not to believe in the possibility of permanent peace is to disbelieve in the godliness of human nature. A nation's culture resides in the hearts and souls of its people. The first step in nonviolence is that we cultivate in our daily life, between ourselves, truthfulness, humility, tolerance, and loving kindness. 3/4 of the miseries and misunderstandings in the world will disappear, he said, if we step into the shoes of our adversaries and understand their standpoint. Every person, as every institution, and above all, every religion, was to be judged not by the amount of atrocities or the wrong committed, but by their right conduct. Terrorism and deception are weapons not of the strong, but of the weak. Truth cannot be found by violent means. These Gandhian thoughts are reflected in the special song that we are about to sing. Those of you who know this, many of you know it, please join, feel free to join. The song is in Sanskrit, and it means, "Serve everyone with friendliness and compassion, which will win their hearts. Look upon others similar to yourself. Renounce war. Renounce unnecessary competition for power. Give up aggression on another's property, it is wrong. Mother Earth is wide enough and ready to give us all we desire. God our Father is very compassionate to all. So restrain yourself, share your wealth with others, be kind to others. O people of the world, may all people of this world be happy and prosperous."
भजत अखिल हृजेत्री मैत्री भजत अखिल हृजेत्री मैत्री भजत अखिल हृजेत्री आत्मवदेव परायणि पश्यत आत्मवदेव परायणि पश्यत युद्धं त्यजत स्पर्धां त्यजत युद्धं त्यजत स्पर्धां त्यजत त्यजत परेष्वक्रममाक्रमणम् त्यजत परेष्वक्रममाक्रमणम् मैत्री भजत अखिल हृजेत्री मैत्री भजत अखिल हृजेत्री जननी पृथ्वी कामदुःखास्ते जननी पृथ्वी कामदुःखास्ते जगतो देवः सकलदयालुः सनको देवः सकलदयालुः राम्यदत्त जयतुं जनता राम्यदत्त
Yeah, this is Atul Kothari. I'm part of the Mahatma Gandhi Library in Houston, and I'm here to make a pledge for peace with all the other peace walkers today and commit my life to peace.
Tell me about that word. Spell it for me and tell me what it is.
Satya means truth.
Say it again. Say it again.
Satya means truth. Satya. Satyagraha. Graha. And that means pursuit of truth.
And you said that was a word. You said that was
The movement that he started was called the Satyagraha movement, where it's just a non-violent, non-cooperative movement. For example, he and his followers went to at that time there was a tax on salt, and so he said that we are going to get the salt from the sea. So he developed a march. He had a big march. Over thousands of people marched to the ocean and started collecting salt from the water. So that was so that they don't have to pay tax. So basically, he revolted against the British rule by non-violence and non-cooperation.
Non-cooperation. Was he one of the first people to use civil disobedience?
Exactly. That's civil disobedience, and that's what Martin Luther King followed Mahatma Gandhi's teachings, and and that's how he won the case against racial discrimination in this country.
My name is Dr. Pramod Pathak. I am busy in organizing the booth for this Gandhi Library. And as you know, I was associated with Gandhi Library for the last few years. And it has been a wonderful work to be propagating the idea of non-violence and peace and good things about Gandhiji in this country.
Thank you. Ma'am, would you talk to me?
Yeah.
What do you know about Gandhi?
Namaste, I am Usha Pathak, and I learned Gandhiji from my childhood, and I live in near the place of Gandhiji where Sevagram Ashram was there, and my birthplace is there. So I know Gandhiji from my heart, and it is very good for the world that go on the Gandhi's path. So it will be a peace and harmony in the whole world.
Well, I knew that Gandhi was a lawyer in South Africa who saw discrimination and came back to his native India in order to work for the rights of the people there. And he used civil disobedience as his tool.
Well, what I know is that he was stood for and brought to the forefront of humanity, really, the principles of nonviolence, which people embraced. People need to live today, and I know that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Admired him so that he took on these principles as well and continued to teach them and live by them. And so today is about honoring Mahatma Gandhi and recognizing him and the impact that he's had, and I think can continue to have as people continue to bring to the forefront of their consciousness the awareness of those teachings and the viability of living them.
How does nonviolence work against more powerful, violent forces?
I think basically any time you return force with force, you just keep the spiral going. And at some point, you've got to back up and be willing to talk, understand, come from a loving space. I think internally, within everyone, there's a goodness, and you can't get to it until somebody backs off and has the courage. I think there's more courage to backing off sometimes than there is to following, again, with force for force.
I think a lot of his ideas are original, however, the roots are in the Indian culture, Hindu culture, and many other religions that are offshoot of Hindu culture, which is Jainism and Buddhism. Mahatma Gandhi had I wouldn't call him teacher, but very close associate who used to consult, who was very much spiritually oriented, although he was a merchant, and he used to have a lot of his dialogues with him regarding this kind of basic philosophy. And I think that gave him the strength. But, the non-violence movement or the non-cooperation movement or the movement to not use the foreign goods, things like that were all his own, based on the thinking that a lot of they were unjust, and how how can a country, home country, can tolerate unjust laws that were imposed onto them by foreigners. So that where the strength came from. He was, of course, what we call Mahatma. So a lot of that is his original, which is now becoming basic root thoughts in a lot of different people all around the world, from Africa to Europe to United States. Wherever there is injustice, people follow his methods. And I think when you consider peaceful ways versus violent ways of trying to overcome this injustice, usually the peaceful ways have won in long run. You may have short results from the aggression and things like that, but after all, in long run, the peaceful measures have prevailed and have really brought the change.
What is the relation between the Quakers and Gandhi?
Oh well, we both believe in nonviolence, and the Quakers have what we call the peace testimony. I can't quote it for you, but it's the denouncing of arms and violence to resolve any conflict. And Quakers believe that of God in everyone. So the philosophy of Gandhi definitely is part of the Quaker philosophy.
I just know he believed in peace. He established peaceful rallies. Violence was not the answer.
Hello! I have to do this project because my mom made me do it, and it has to be about Mahatma Gandhi. So, I have to have some primary sources, aka sources that came from Mahatma Gandhi himself. Now I could spend hours and hours on the internet, but I decided to do it the easy and smart way. I invented my own time machine. I plan on going back in time to interview Mahatma Gandhi himself. If you're wondering who Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was, I'll tell you. Mahatma Gandhi led the Indian society to resist the British politically and economically through nonviolence. This gave India the political freedom it has today. Next up, Mahatma Gandhi's time. Namaste. Namaste, Gandhiji. Can you please talk in English?
Fine, I will talk in English. Who are you?
I am a student from the future, and I need to interview you.
All right, you may interview me.
First of all, why are you wearing such clothes? Don't you wear pants or shirts?
I used to wear pants and shirts, but then I found out a lot of people here only have 2 pairs of clothes to wear. So I decided to give up my clothes and live with the minimum requirements.
Wow, that's really great of you. What is that instrument?
Oh, see, that is my charkha, or my spinning wheel. I use it to make my own clothes and for the clothing boycott.
That's very interesting, but how do you boycott with such an instrument?
See, I make my own clothes so I do not have to buy from the British, and most of my followers do so also. Since we do not buy from the British has less in the economy, and so they have less money. The British only came to India for its riches. If they have less riches, then they will go back and Indians will rule India and we shall have our rights.
Wow, that's really elaborate thinking. What other methods have you used to protest?
I've also used non-cooperation by not following what the authority says. And another thing I've done is fast. When an Indian does anything wrong, such as ahimsa or violence, I shall fast. When I fast, the Indians fear for my life and they will stop doing any wrong, so my life will not be in danger anymore because they love me and seek my guidance so much.
Wow. I guess that's a useful technique. What is that artifact?
Oh, see? These are my 3 monkeys. They signify if you don't speak evil, see evil, or hear evil, you will not be evil.
That's an interesting theory. Is there anyone in particular who inspired you?
Yes, it was mainly Kavi Rai Chand Bai. He was the one who taught me about ahimsa and non-violence. It was also Ruskin and Leo Tolstoy through their marvelous books.
And did you know you inspired Martin Luther King Jr.?
Who is this Martin Luther King Jr. you speak of?
Oh, no one yet. Can you please tell me more about your earlier life?
Yes, I was born on October 2nd, 1869 in a small town called Porbandar. You may not believe me, but as a small child, I was very ordinary and shy.
Really?
Yes. Later I grew up and I decided to become a lawyer, so I went to England to study. I came back here and I was not very good at first because of my fright to speaking for crowds. Then I got a job offer in South Africa in 1893.
What did you do in South Africa?
In South Africa, I faced racism for the first time. See, I was riding in a first-class train compartment with a first-class train ticket when I was forced to sit in second class just because of my dark skin color. How unfair is that? I refused and I was thrown off the train and I had to stand shivering and cold on the train station all night long. This was my first satyagraha.
What is a satyagraha?
A satyagraha is not giving up to unfair laws. Anyway, because of this incident, I decided to remain in South Africa and help protest for rights. Later, I came back to India and saw that the British were treating the Indians so unfairly. They were taxing us so much. So I decided to fight using nonviolence and protesting. So I taught the people a new way to fight without fist.
Wow, now I can see why you're such a great leader.
Thank you. It is my prayer time now. I must leave.
Okay, thanks for the great interview. Oh look, a British officer is passing by. He'll provide a good opposition for my project. One more source and one less week to spend on the internet. Excuse me, but can I interview you about Mahatma Gandhi?
Yes, you may.
First of all, what is your name?
I am known as Lieutenant Patnana.
And what do you think of Gandhi?
I think Gandhi's ways are horrible. The British are making India progress more.
What can you say about Gandhi's ideas?
Gandhi believes in non-violence to the full extent, which is unreasonable. How do you achieve freedom by using non-violence? If you slap him once, he will offer you the other.
So, do you think Mahatma Gandhi even has a chance at freedom?
Other people are trying to use violence to get freedom, such as Bhagat Singh, but they have failed. But they still had a much better chance of getting freedom than Mahatma Gandhi.
So, what is inducing you to be a British officer? After all, you are Indian, so why are you working for the British?
India is progressing.
Can you elaborate?
India is getting new technologies such as guns. In payment, the British are getting tax on jewels. Otherwise, the British will never take all that money.
So, do you know any protests Mahatma Gandhi has held?
Yes, he held a protest against the salt tax. It was called the Dandi March. He did this because the British were holding a tiny tax on salt. So he gathered up followers and they marched off to the ocean on March 12, 1930 to collect their own salt. The journey lasted 23 days. When they reached there, my officers attacked them. They did not retaliate. My officers got tired of fighting them. So just because of this incident, the British have abolished the salt tax. I don't think they should have done that.
Oh, I think it's time for me to go. Thanks for the great interview.
You're welcome.
It's hard to tell time when time traveling, though.
Hang on, we're almost through.
Yes, the conclusion.
Gandhi took a stand, forcing the Britishers to leave India. India gained its independence on August 15, 1947. It was a victory without weapons. Later, on January 30th, 1948, Mahatma Gandhi was killed by a man called Godse. Mahatma Gandhi inspired many people, such as Martin Luther King Jr., as we mentioned earlier. And Mahatma Gandhi gave birth to a new way to fight, a way that did not involve any physical combat. Even though Mahatma Gandhi is dead, his spirit lives on with all of us as the father of India.
Namaste, as we say in India, or as we say here, bye.
What do you think of Gandhi's philosophy of using nonviolence?
Oh, I think it's great. I just wished everybody could accept that.
Why are y'all having this event?
To really make a statement in the city of Houston and in conjunction with the city of Houston to make the biggest push and stand that we can for peace and nonviolence. And who better to do it other than Gandhi and follow in his spirit and footsteps. A lot of his ideas came from his readings of all religions and very many different philosophies. But his whole stance about nonviolence and satyagraha, or holding to the truth, came into being and took form in South Africa, where he went to practice law.
What do you know about him?
He didn't use weapons and stuff, he used words to fight. Though he didn't get a Nobel Prize, that was the messed up part.
Okay, that's
non-violence.
He's a very religious
Yeah,
person.
He
didn't fight.
He believed in peace.
Yes, and he tried to set peace for everybody, but unfortunately he got assassinated. So just kind of like Martin Luther King, pretty much, trying to make peace with the world.
Martin Luther King,
learned from him.
yeah. Martin Luther King
Learned from him.
learned
He
about
took-
nonviolence from Mahatma Gandhi.
And he took that and he used that to get
civil rights.
Yeah, in the Civil Rights Act.
Well, actually, Gandhi is very useful utility. I have applied his principles to the civil rights movement, to the gay and lesbian rights movement, to the women's equality and choice movements, and to anti-war movements. First book I read all the way through was a book by Gandhi, and the second one was a book about Gandhi. My mother gave me both of them. When I gave them back to her, she gave them back to me and said, read them again. And we went through that cycle until she was convinced that I knew what Gandhi was and what he was about.
Talk about, I understand some of the new laws coming down have made civil disobedience, the penalties vary.
Well, that's a good thing, because civil disobedience by its very nature means that you want to violate structured law, and you're willing to, on the power of the principle on which you're speaking, suffer the consequences of violating the law.
It seems like those consequences are about to get a lot worse in the sense that you could be labeled a terrorist.
Remember from Gandhi's experience, he once was on his way to give a speech and they said, what are you going to talk about? And he said, well, I'm going to talk about the importance of goat's milk in daily diet. I will, of course, also talk about the war. And they arrested him and they locked him up for many, many years. And each day he served, the absurdity of that grew more ridiculous. And it was from that darkest hour of his life, when he was in prison to serve many, many years, that they released him, and he was the first indigenous Indian to speak to a viceroy in the Raj as an equal. So with the greater sacrifice comes the greater reward.
Well, Mahatma Gandhi fought against injustice, but he also fought against people who would divide group against group, demonize others, and appealed to the common humanity of a very diverse country in India. And when he died, he was still fighting that fight. That's something that all communities should take heart, who have people from different backgrounds and can serve as an inspiration for what we can do here in Houston.
Would you encourage all Houstonians to participate some way in this type of movement?
Yes, and he's to learn a little bit about the life of Mahatma Gandhi, one of the great leaders in the world in the last 100 years, somebody who helped inspire the techniques of nonviolence that were used in our own civil rights movement, that helped throw shackles off of tens of millions of Americans. And we are a very diverse city. and there's always people trying to divide. So when you have examples like Mahatma Gandhi, who brought people together, we should celebrate their example.
Do you think the world's political leaders could learn something from Gandhi?
Yes. Gandhi understood that the moral force of public opinion was greater than arms. That's not always been the case. Certainly, nonviolence did not prevail for those who were slaughtered by Hitler in the Holocaust. But when the conscience of the world and the conscience of a nation can be aroused, it can be far greater than any army. He demonstrated that with his life. He demonstrated that in practical terms with his achievement in India. And it is not always intuitive. We need to be reminded.
Be careful with this flame here.
Yeah.
Should we wait for the singing? Could it just take a shot?
For the singing?
Good. And let him take the picture.
Can we activate all the mics, please, Alfred?
One on each side. You can go to the other side too. If you have your torches, can you come this way? Because people are coming in the back. Just go to the side so everybody can light it.
Anybody else want to say?
Let's all move to the side.
Was not ever the star great at all, should sweet Leon. I love the shores and see my path, but now we come, we walk.
The balloons are in heaven.
Just back up here. Come on. Back up.
Hey, two is falling. Two is falling. Hay dos, mami, mira.
Everybody has a candle here.
Edward.
Put your candle, Eva.
Everybody has candles.
No, don't do that. You're gonna make the wax drop.
I know.
Let me look at it.
Okay.
Okay, bring my wax, bring my wax. Oh, no, look, let's put a photo of the mic. Straight up. Look how I hold it like this. The drops are really flat. Look how I always like it. Yeah.
आधार बाजू में खड़ा है
Hopefully these are waves, and they ebb sometimes as well as flow sometimes. This is a very conservative period, and at this time there's a kind of a high-blown patriotism that refuses to allow dissent. But just as it has flowed, my hope is that it will ebb again, and that's how it goes. I'm 78 years old, so I've seen a number of these ebbs and flows. And just as certainly as there are those who would suppress dissent, there are those who would encourage dissent. And I think that our time will come again.